Hey, it's Pasquale.
Dr. Traci.
And we are here today excited for Halloween.
Yes, we are.
And we're going to continue the Halloween topics.
So today I wanted to talk to you about loved ones who've crossed over, or just really kind of any spirits that choose to kind of stay around with us as opposed to crossing over. And so, because this comes up a lot in grief therapy when, we've lost a loved one. And of course, we always say, if that is consistent with your belief that, they're here with you.
Mm-hmm.
But they're here with you kind of like in different ways. It could be like either they're like here, like close to you, like not crossed over yet, or they could be crossed over, and that there's a difference there, right?
There's a total difference.
Okay, so can you help us understand that difference?
Sure, it's a total energetic difference. I think what happens is when we get to the point where we leave, right? A lot of times one of the biggest things are, well, I don't want them to suffer, I don't want them to have pain, right? If you actually are in the process of kind of crossing, right, which I know is not directly answering the question, but you know me and I have to go around the block. So we're just taking the round.
We know.
We're taking the round. But like it's an important one because I think like a lot of times people are like, well, I don't want them to have pain, I don't want them to suffer. And I'm always like, you know what, you have to recognize that when our bodies are at that point of extinction, right, when it's starting to end, right, we're being called out. Right, the energy is beginning to leave, and I always tell people tips like, if it's in a hospital, don't stand at the feet of the bed, because most of the time the person is staring forward, right, and they're staring forward because their angel is forward, is present, and if you're standing at the foot of the bed, you're actually blocking their view, which is not helping them kind of move.
You're like, door, not a window, B.
Exactly. So always stand at their sides and just be present.
That is so interesting.
It's the truth, though. They always look forward. They're always looking, even if they're at their sides,
right.
They're looking forward. And you want to make sure that you're not standing in that view. Because
if that's you, I'm going to be like, hello, my baby, hello, my darling, hello, my ragtime girl.
I got a long time for this. Don't you worry. I'm going to be in that old folks home for a long, long time before that happens. But like, so you want to make sure she's putting on a dance today.
Sorry.
Oh, this is a lot of energy. I don't know if you can feel it, but it's a lot. I'm sweating.
Okay, come on. This is a serious
I'm
topic.
Sorry.
Okay.
So you don't ever want to stand there because you want to give them the freedom to leave, right? Because once they're at that point, realistically, it's kind of like their energy just opens and expands. It's the best way I always describe it. It's like they just become from like this simple vessel to this free spirit, truly. I know. And it's just become so large and so expansive, right? And it's in that state. It's kind of
like taking off, like we take off a jacket.
Exactly.
Like it's like because this is our human vessel. That. So we're like removing that and like setting our energetic body free, right?
Totally. And typically it's that human side that stays, right? It's the spiritual side's already on its way out.
Yeah.
And is leaving. So there's really no physical, like no true pain for the spirit. And so when it happens, it just leaves. And at that point, they get to make choices, right? Like, because everything is a choice. Oftentimes what they'll do is they'll say, I'm seeing light. I want to go into it. I want to join my family. I want to join those people. I want to join that party that's happening over there and rejoin the energy, right? Or what I have found is that they just say, well, I don't want to leave this person because I think they still need me. Or I'm not sure that this is actually happening and I'm dead, right? Like there's some variables there. And then that kind of shifts them and keeps them kind of here, right?
Okay.
And so what I always say is like it's a little different because the energy when they're here, I think is a lot heavier, a lot more present. It's just very much there, right? Like,
so they're not necessarily feeling their own grief because they're kind of like freed in a sense, but they can feel our grief.
Yes.
Right. And this is, I use this concept when treating people that have lost loved ones through grief, and obviously, of course, only if they have a consistent spiritual and religious beliefs, of course. But and we have the stages of grief, and of course, we have to honor our grief in the beginning. But once we get past all the pain, and we get to that point where it's like we want to be able to let go and heal, but we're not able to, or we're scared. And so I try to use that concept to motivate them to really let them, let their loved one go, because I kind of explain it in terms of, they are here. They could be waiting here because they don't want to leave you yet, because you've been in so much grief. But when you can do that, you're actually allowing them, you're freeing them, you're releasing them of that, and you're letting them continue on their journey. Because it's also not just about us. And me personally, like, I look at it like, and this is of course later on in the grieving process, not in the beginning at all, because we do have to validate our grief and really feel it, and we're allowed to and supposed to.
100%.
So later on towards the end of the grieving process. But, I always think, like, to myself, I'm like, it's selfish for me to hold on to them. Like, they've done their time. It's kind of like an inmate. They've done their time.
I have done my time. So I will put that
I'm
there.
like, please release me, And so, so it can be, depending on where you are in that grieving process. Obviously, somebody who's grieving, you don't want to tell them that they're being selfish by holding on.
No.
There's a time and a place for everything. But towards the end, it can really help us motivate and do it out of love as opposed to that pain.
I think that's the key word. Like, for me, it's like, when you look at that, it's selfish is kind of a good way to describe it, but really they're not holding on to love, they're holding on to fear, right?
And pain. Yeah,
fear.
And
it's that other side, right?
That's
and so
a good point.
That's the thing that they need to release, is that if they were in a loving state, I don't think you would want them to stay, right?
That's really true.
It kind of, you're holding it on because you're afraid to be alone. I'm not afraid. I know what I'm going to do. I don't know, what life's going to be like. I've spent my entire life with you. I don't know, right? It's that fear that kind of holds them to that person,
Yeah.
I
never verbalized it like that, but I really like that, because I always explain to people that, the goal of healing from grief is not that we never miss them or never cry or feel that pain anymore, but it's that when we remember them, we want to remember them with love and maybe smile through our tears, as opposed to like feeling so much pain, and so that's consistent with, it's kind of like focusing on release them out of love, not out of a fear.
Yes.
Of them leaving us.
That I think is the key,
Yeah.
right? Is that when we're in this space, because we're all gonna go through it, right?
Yeah.
We all go through it, whether it's
No
a
one's
person
getting out alive.
No. And do you want to? I mean,
there's a lot of people that do. There's a lot of people that
I don't
live
disagree.
forever and want, So
I
mean,
love
us
this life.
personally, we have different beliefs. So
I like living, but I think the other side's probably a lot more fun. I just envision it this way. But, I think something else to kind of add on to what you were saying was, it's been recorded on so many out-of-body experiences, right? Where it's like someone can pass in Australia and you may be in New York, but in that moment of passing, that person, even though you're in New York, is with you.
Right.
Because their energy is so expansive. You don't need to be present.
I totally believe that, yeah.
It's more about just being open, right? And I think it's kind of allowing that energy to kind of be there, but then also say, thanks for visiting. I can't wait to see you again.
And it said our energy in spirit world can be in multiple places at multiple times.
Yes.
So,
it's why angels
talk about cheating. I could be like visiting you, my husband, a couple exes on the side. No, just kidding. I would never visit them.
I don't want to be visited either.
It was like haunting them. I'd be like...
That could be fun, though.
Sorry.
I do plan on hunting a few of you. You know who you are.
And that is a promise, not a threat.
No, but I think.
Sorry, this topic is just so fun.
You have to make it fun though.
I know.
You have to make it fun because it's
it's so interesting to me though.
Yeah, I will tell you, like, it's every time that you've seen someone who is kind of staying, they really are staying for someone else.
Yeah.
Like, if it's related in that way. Mm-hmm. And so it's tough because they don't want to let that person go. That
reminds me of, how, like, how family members could be at somebody's bedside, like literally 24/7. They won't shower, they won't eat, they will not leave. And then finally, after like this long period of time, somebody convinces them, just please, I'll stay with them, go take a shower, go get something to eat. And then they finally go, and then the person passes. And people feel such a tremendous, intense amount of guilt for that. But I explained to them, I'm like, that person was holding on for you. They couldn't go. They couldn't leave while you were there. And you weren't meant to experience that.
Yeah.
They were actually waiting for you to leave. Do you believe that?
It's totally true. I've seen it.
I have. It's
happened so many times in my life where it's like you kind of you wait, and then the minute the person leaves, it's like bam.
Yeah.
And it just happens.
Pretty
but
quickly,
I
too.
totally agree. Mm-hmm. It's like, so like in my family, in my culture, like it's like when someone's in the hospital, you don't ever leave them. So you're always with them, right? Like you kind of there to support them and kind of be that additional arm. But I'll tell you, after witnessing that so many times, it's like you've got to allow the person that may be in the hospital some space for them.
Yeah.
To kind of catch up with them.
And process on their own.
Yeah. Talk to their angels. Talk to, their moms or whomever has passed. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they won't do that because you're present.
Right.
Right.
I used to whisper in my Nana's ear, and I would say, "Man, who's the first person you want to see when you pass, when you cross over?" And everybody else, of course, I'm a psychologist, so this kind of stuff is a lot easier for me to talk about than the average person because we talk about it all the time.
Totally.
But, I would even tell my mom, I'm like, they would still be like trying to get her to do these things. And I'm like, Mom, I'm like, I know it's hard, but like, please, like when you can do it, just say like, it's okay for you to go, but that wasn't, so moving back to the first part that I was saying, I would whisper in her ear and say, who's the first person you want to see? And I just remember she smiled really big. And she was already like, not really showing a lot of facial expressions and not really able to talk. And she said, my mother. And I was like, oh my gosh. And this is our matriarch. And it reminded me like she's a kid.
Yeah.
And it was it gave me chills just talking about it now, but it was so beautiful and it made the experience like so much more peaceful.
Yeah.
The
number one person that people, when they're ready to cross, see is their mom. In every sense. It's
that they want to see or that they do see.
It's always their mom is the first one they see. Always. If they have a relationship with their mom and mom figure.
We need to talk.
It's the truth. Because also remember, even if it was
my dogs.
You'll see them
I'll
after.
Be like,
but
move me.
You have to look at That's you being a mom. That's you being a mom. But mom is the nurturer, right? And so
Not to everyone.
But when they cross, they become it because they recognize.
Oh, jeez.
And so it's always like every single time that I've been in a room where someone's crossing, which is probably more times than both of my hands.
Well, then I guess this brings up another topic because then when we are released from that human pain, that human experience, we then no longer have all of that possible resentment or all the problems and the pain from that relationship.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I don't know how automatic it is, but I want to say it's almost like this. get a sense that it's this like automatic understanding of like a big picture of like, this is kind of getting into other things, but if there was some sort of soul contract involved, you know, because if this is totally getting onto a tangent, which we can cover in another episode, but is that kind of, and then we would want that.
You know,
because it was such an important relationship.
Yeah, you know what it is? It's remember that you choose your parents for the lessons, right? You choose them for the lessons. And I think it's the lessons that we take from our parents and run forward with. But once we cross, our vision isn't stuck in this three-dimensional human body, right? Mm-hmm. We open up to this other experience. We start to see things from different perspectives. Yeah. We can actually feel what other people are feeling as that in that crossed over state, in that spirit state, right? It's an energy now, and that energy understands truths. It understands and has learned to let go of sacrifice for sure. But like for me, it's like, you know, you have to remember when you leave this body, you enter a state of love, right? Like that's the pure vibration, the hum of energy is love. And so even when you leave that energy of love, you start to recognize that perspective of that human side made me feel this way, right? I was angry, I was resentful, I'm carrying, you know, guilt or whatever that is, right? That's the human side. And when you move past that and you start to enter into that pure love state, all that other stuff isn't important, and you recognize it, right? Yeah. Which is to me like oftentimes why mediums are so popular today is because today in general, right? Because the medium is actually connecting with someone who is crossed, who has a message of please forgive me, I love you, I'm here for you, because of their human existence. Right? It's super connected in that way.
That's very beautiful.
And so like that's the piece to remember is that when someone is crossing, remember they've entered a state of love, right? Or they choose to, right? There are some that choose to stay because they don't know if they've gone or they're kind of confused, and in that state, it's always good to kind of help them kind of move that on. And I think that's our next topic for next week, right?
Yeah, crossing over.
Crossing over
like
is the next topic.
What we kind of, you know or think we know about it. Yeah.
So
but for this one, what in terms of not fully crossing over, but what would be once they do kind of like we're saying, once we're able to kind of release them and let them go, like when we start to heal, in what aspect are they still kind of there for us?
You know, I always like, you know, I like kind of the idea that they're like your angel, they're your support, right? Okay. They could come around and it could still be there, right? Like, and I can tell you from my own experience, like I still have, I have a couple grandparents that stick around and kind of come back, and through my whole family, they'll visit in dreams or whatnot, right? Whereas my one grandmother, she never visits me. She visits everyone but me, right? And I know. We will be talking one day. Don't you worry. I have a whole list of things. But like you have to believe it's from love, right? Yeah. Like she's not coming because of love. And so it's, if you're not visited, it's not a bad thing. Yeah. Right? It just means that you're on the right track. And just know that they'll always be with you. You know, all you have to do is just think of them and call them. Yeah. And they'll come forward.
Right. So even when you are releasing them, you don't necessarily ever really lose them. You're just allowing them to cross over, but they can still be there for you, guiding you. And a lot of times I tell people like now they actually have more kind of power. I don't know if that's the right word. Yeah. To like look over you, guide you, and protect you than they did when they were here on Earth.
Totally.
You know, so you can continue talking to them, you can continue asking them questions, asking for guidance, asking for support, help, right? And then feel that and pay attention to signs and, you know, try to connect. And there's different things that you can do with that.
I will tell you, like there's like a cultural belief out there that like when someone crosses, like you don't really lose them because they join you and they're part of you. And so each generation, it just continues to expand where it's like every grandparent is in you, and you're in each of your children moving forward, right? It's a good way to kind of look at kind of the way the energy is of it, right? Because it carries, right? It's not just this divine energy. It's also there's genetics too, right? That link us to that divine energy.
Okay, so this brings a whole nother branch.
We're not going in science because I don't know science.
Well, no, not science. I don't either. So
I am not taking a Peachtree
science of psychology. That's it. But
there you go. I can do that.
No, but because I think of like soul families. I don't think of like blood family.
They're totally different.
Right. Okay.
They could be the same.
They could be. Yeah. But are you talking about? You're talking about the blood and the DNA line.
So, it gets complicated, right? Like, because what I will tell, from the way I understand it is that once you do cross and you've kind of, and this is a topic for the next lesson, or talk, but like, once you do cross, everything is broken into tribes is how I understand it. That's the words I get. It's like tribe, right?
Okay.
And so
that's weird because that's become like a pop culture word, like find your tribe.
Totally.
This is my tribe.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so like to me it's like I think that's their word for family. And so I think that when you talk family on the spirit side of things, it's not just your mom, dad, and like the people
not
you know.
Not just the blood.
It's not the
line.
blood. It's
okay.
bigger.
Right.
Right. And I think that your soul family are people who are somehow connected in that way.
Like we travel in circles, like through lifetimes together.
And they're just easy. That connection. That's a great topic to talk about because I think soul families are sometimes more important than actually familial families, like blood families.
I've always held importance to that because I feel like our blood family is oftentimes because it is about lessons. And unfortunately we learn through like struggles and challenges. So unfortunately sometimes our family is like sometimes the hardest people to be around and the most difficult that cause us the most pain. And that I hate to say that, but that's just reality. Right,
From
exactly.
the lessons.
Because of the lessons we're having to overcome and learn through this time. And so I feel like that's not necessarily like the soul family. Yeah.
They're totally different.
Right.
And I always like, because I have someone in my life, I know my soul family, or several members of my soul family.
I do too.
And like for them, it's like...
You're one.
You are too.
It's just going to be like, oh, that's great.
We found each other. But like it's just easy. Life is easy. And we're totally going off topic. And I'm surprised that I'm the one doing this.
I know. You're redirecting me. I know.
But like I think that it's the truth though. Like so like when it's time for that like crossing over to happen is just recognize that it is truly a bigger picture. It's bigger energy, bigger.
So let's talk about soul families on a future episode because I love that. Okay.
So with that, happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Enjoy the tricks and the treats, and we will chat next time.
Bye.
Bye.